Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Stocker Team Special. On this episode, we're bringing you much more update on the Dangote Refinery IPO. The last episode that we did was to introduce the news about that IPO and what exactly the company was planning. Then we didn't have much more information because it was just an announcement that was made. Now we seem to have a bit further information that could actually increase the understanding about this IPO and how this company is looking to actually become a public limited liability company where you can buy their shares just like you buy Dangote Cement, Dangote Sugar, or any other company for that matter. Welcome to Stocker Team, the Investors Channel. This episode is proudly presented by Stocker Team and Stocker Team Gateway, the platform for retail investors to monitor the market, track your portfolio, and also get real-time data analytics about the stock market, the global financial market. You can track stocks, bonds, ETFs, currencies, crypto market, and everything about all the investment and companies that you actually care about. So go to stockerteam.com and go to Gateway to access it. So let's jump right in. So we have further update. Dangote Refinery, Dangote Petrochemical Industry is actually now going further to give more information that this IPO is going to actually go bigger than what was expected. So instead of just listing on the Nigerian stock market alone, Dangote Refinery is looking to actually launch a Pan-African IPO for that matter, and the IPO will likely involve at least close to about 4 or 5 African capital markets. Nigeria, by default, we are likely to have the Nairobi Stock Exchange. We are likely to have the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. We are not too sure about Accra Stock Exchange, but it also seems like the Francophone African capital market or stock market, the BVRM, might likely be joining this IPO. And the IPO is likely to now happen as early as May. Although we have these incidents in the Middle East, the US-Israel war in Iran is still dragging, although it's benefiting the company, but we don't necessarily know if this is going to really have material impact on the IPO being delayed or being postponed or even being suspended indefinitely. But it seems the company might actually go ahead with that IPO. Now, let's go to some of other information that we already have at our disposal. It is now very certain, or almost 100% certain, that Dangote Refinery will be raising or seeking to raise about $5 billion. The company will likely also be selling between 5 to 10% stake in the business. The company will also likely have that Pan-African IPO that will allow investors across all the different markets in sub-Saharan Africa and maybe the Egyptian Stock Exchange. We don't necessarily know whether they will be participating at the beginning or they will have a secondary listing there later. But it's going to be a single listing that will connect different markets together, and investors can actually trade the stock or the stock of the company in a way that the liquidity or even the uptake will be sufficient enough, because $5 billion is quite enormous. This IPO, we don't even need to reiterate or overemphasize it. It's the largest IPO in the history of Africa, and it's also the strategic asset that is also making the Dangote Refinery IPO to be one of a kind. So the asset that is being listed now is the 650,000 barrel per day capacity refinery. It is the largest single train refinery, and it could also become the largest ever if the company goes ahead to actually expand it based on the strategic plan to expand it to about 1.4 million barrels per day. So that is a huge one that is also making this IPO or this company to be very, very much of a big interest to so many people in across the capital market. now, what exactly is the investment thesis? We've said this in our previous video. It's about energy security. Looking at what is going on with the Strait of Hormuz being blocked and about 30 to 40% of the world's oil being stocked just at a point, puts Dangote Refinery at a very, very strong position to actually serve not just the sub-Saharan African market, but even markets in Asia, market in the Middle East, market also in the North American market. We've seen Dangote Refinery said they are actually even running out of aviation fuel because of the huge demand that is actually coming on. So, but energy security as well, it also makes Dangote Refinery to be in the crosshairs. Should we have any instability in Nigeria, in West Africa, it might actually affect Dangote Refinery, in the medium or in the short to the medium term. So it works both ways. Import substitution, Nigeria is now a net exporter of petroleum product, not just crude oil, but also refined product like gasoline or petrol, diesel, aviation fuel, and the rest. USD revenue, the Nigerian market, Nigerian economy has benefited very, very strongly from the Dangote Refinery being a net earner of USD or US dollar. It has really even helped the Nigerian foreign reserve to now be at maybe almost 20-year high, or almost more than that, 15 to 20-year high. I don't have that figure on my head, but the Nigerian foreign reserve now is now very, very strong, and we've seen the naira in the last 2.5 years has been very, very stable and very, very predictable, which is what investors actually want to see. So the structural growth of this company is also something that investors should actually keep an eye on. The IPO structure, like I said, is going to be a multi-exchange listing, the Nigerian Stock Exchange plus several other exchanges which will be announced. The prospectus is not how. The prospectus is actually the detailed information about the company financials, about the IPO, the structure of the business, the people who are the core shareholders, the existing shareholders, the loans that the company has taken, the asset, the liability, the risk involved, a whole lot of the plans of the business that actually makes it investable. So that document will be out, and we'll be able to get more information about what African market or African capital market will be participating at the beginning. So it's also a retail story, but despite the fact that we are going to have more institutional investors getting more of the pie, there is likely going to be a demarcation between retail and institutional investors, whereby retail will be able to actually have something for them to be able to buy without having to struggle with institutional investors. That is yet to be seen. So the Pan-African model actually works well. Cross-border access, liquidity pooling. So unlike Dangote Cement or Dangote Sugar, which sometimes, despite the fact that the company pays very good dividends, there's this liquidity problem. So $5 billion being listed in different parts of the African capital market is actually very good. You could actually see investors in Johannesburg Stock Exchange buying in Nigerian Stock Exchange, Nigerian investors maybe cross buying across different markets, and that makes the liquidity problem almost nothing to worry about. It's also going to integrate the African market and the key financials. Now, there is about 20 to 50 billion valuation that has been put on the table. We don't know what the actual final details will be. If we are getting this information being released in the media, formally or informally, we should have the idea that this should actually be close to what the company will be listing. But we don't actually know, because the range between 20 to 50 billion is quite very, very wide. But they'll be raising $5 billion, like I said, and the capital expenditure that this company is actually looking to spend in the next couple of years is about $40 billion, which to an extent actually gives investors that long-term view about this business, that they're actually very, very committed to growing this business beyond just being a business that is just making news. They really want to actually invest for the long haul. So the dollar linked return. So how does this appeal to you? You could actually get your dividends either in your local currency, maybe the Nigerian naira, Kenyan shillings, the South African rand, or the Egyptian dollar if Egypt tags along, or you could actually choose to get it in US dollar, which is actually a very, very attractive proposition to a lot of investors. Also, you have that access to infrastructure investments. This company is going to be investing in several infrastructure, from port infrastructure to logistics to supply chain to even core petrochemical assets, and that's scarcity premium. We've seen what the company is benefiting from the Strait of Hormuz closure. This company gets much more revenue when there is a global oil crisis, just like what we are having. But it works both ways. When that crisis is being resolved, you can actually see the revenue of the company actually, moderating or even falling to a very, very moderate view. So as an investor, you actually have to pay attention to this. Valuation risk, regulatory complexity, political exposure, execution risk. These are things that we should actually look into. Is this business going to be fairly valued between 20 to 50 billion dollars? Regulatory, Nigeria is a peculiar place. Yes, a lot of reforms have been done. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation is also trying to make sure that they clean up the sector. But we've seen what happened in the last 8 to 9 months when this company, Dangote Refinery, had some disagreements with the regulator of that sector, and it was almost it took the president or the presidency or the federal government to actually actually come in between and resolve this matter. So you don't want a business that is always in combat or in disagreement with the government, because that political risk, political exposure is very, very key. Execution risk. Is this business able to deliver the 1.4 million barrels per day? Is this very visible in the short or medium term? Is this going to be delayed? Are we going to have some issues? Aliko Dangote himself has been the one pushing this business, and how long will he be able to do that? What is succession planning to actually make sure that this execution of this business is even better and better than what they did to achieve the 650,000 barrels? So strategic significance, it's the first Pan-African IPO, the largest IPO ever, and we don't even know whether we're going to have any IPO that will rival this IPO in terms of value and scale. It's also that new capital model, and it's a future template for investors. And if you have watched these videos to this point, like I said, this video is presented to you by StockerTeam.com and StockerTeam Gateway. It's a platform for retail investors to get access to how to monitor the market, how to track and get market intelligence from stocks, bonds, ETFs, the entire gamut, indices, currencies, commodities. You can track everything and get real-time news feed. I'll be going into that dashboard shortly, but let's bring this to a close. So what do you think about what we already have now about the Dangote Refinery? Do you think this IPO is going to actually be a one of a kind? Is this a bubble? Is this too much of a hype? Do you have any concerns? At the end of the day, we've seen it that this is a landmark deal. It has very strong potential. There's still a lot of complexities, and we need more transparency to actually see what exactly has been going on with this company as a private company. What are the risks involved? And so we bring this to a close. As soon as the prospectus comes out, we are already in April, and maybe May or even late April, we might get this prospectus if this is going ahead in late May. So let's keep our fingers crossed. And so let's just get a preview of our StockerTeam Gateway. So this is the StockerTeam Gateway, a platform where you can track everything about the global financial markets. You can track any stock you follow, any stock you invest in. It's not a platform where you can buy and sell shares or any financial instrument. It's actually a platform for getting real-time intelligence. So say for instance, you are interested in in Nvidia. You can actually track Nvidia stock in real time, and on the left here you get all the news feed about Nvidia, from regulatory announcements to official press release to news articles, opinion articles, and you also see the sentiment analysis. You can track also the global markets. You can track indices, the S&P 500. You can track any major indices, the Euro stocks, stock 600. You can track any market for that matter. You can also track currencies.